Hi, I'm Peter Reinhardt, and welcome to Pizza Quest. I'm here today with somebody that most of you who are listening or watching may not know. Unlike a lot of the folks who are kind of like out front, we're with Kyle Ahlgren, who is the behind the scenes guy. He's the producer and director of a whole series of fabulous instructional videos on baking and pizza. And so you don't get to see him normally in front of the camera, but today you get to meet Kyle, and we're going to hear all about Artisan Baking Online from Kyle Ahlgren. Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself and what is
Yeah.
ABC Online?
Yeah. A little bit about me really quick, because I don't take too much time, but I'm actually from a branding, graphic design, marketing background. I've been working actually with, I went to college with Nicky Justo. So that's kind of my, all of a sudden he started turning into this crazy baker guy. And I was like, what happened to graphic design? But
Serendipity.
anyways, yeah, it was a good choice for his career path. But if anybody knows who he is at Central Milling, he's kind of a master of all things
Yeah,
there.
we've had Nikki on Pizza Quest
Yeah,
a couple of times, and a longtime friend. And
yeah,
basically, it's because of Nikki that you and I got to meet.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's the kind of guy that puts me in touch with all the different bakers. But so I've been doing, branding, digital marketing for Central Milling for about 4 years. Actually, when I was at a design studio way back in 2016, or 15, 16, we helped launch the current Central Milling website. And so I was kind of working with Nikki on some stuff and helping out with some graphic design. And then when I launched my own business about 4 years ago, I was brought on to help him with all the various digital graphics, digital marketing, designing T-shirts like this and all the cool packaging, retail bags. So definitely behind the scenes guy there. But then I am also a 50-50 partner. My company is the production and marketing side of Artisan Baking Center Online. And
Mm.
so Artisan Baking Center, for those, maybe some people know what that is in the audience, but it started off, it's Nicky Justo's idea. His brainchild is they have this distribution center where they distribute all their flour and other baking products kind of up and down the West Coast. It's in Petaluma, just north of San Francisco. And he wanted to have a professional research and development bakery and for training facility. And while they're at it, why not have some in-person classes here for the local community to come in and learn baking from some amazing bakers that were already kind of part of the family, such as yourself. So that opened back in, I think, late 2016.
Yeah, it's a wonderful baking center. It's
Yeah,
some of the best classes of especially bread making, and now a few other things, other pastries and pizzas. But it's a go-to place now for anybody, whether it's professional or enthusiast, to want to learn how to bake.
yeah, it's a really cool facility, and we helped them with the branding and the launch of that and the ticketing and all this stuff back when it opened, and it was running along pretty nicely. And then COVID happened, and as things did, it shut down, and so all of a sudden, this amazing facility was basically empty for a couple of years, and so it was really tough for them because that was a source of revenue for that facility and part of their company and everything. And so during COVID, as all things like Zoom, I don't know how much you Zoomed before COVID,
Now, I
but
sure didn't. I didn't even know about Zoom before COVID.
yeah, now you're like a Zoom master. You know what I mean? So it broke the barriers down for people to do things online, do
Yeah.
things digitally. And so I approached Nikki, since I was already working with them for Central Milling, and said, hey, why don't we take these classes and go online with them? Because people are coming to Artisan Baking Center. And at that point, they were talking about reopening. But, for the most part, people come from 25, 40, 50 miles around Petaluma. So you've got this pretty small segment, unless you've got these super fans that are, flying out from wherever to go to a Peter Reinhardt class and whatnot. So I said, let's take this online, and then we can provide similar baking content, really good high level professional baking classes to people from their own homes. And so, there's some give and take on that. It's like, you can't have Peter come over and actually touch your dough, and you don't have all the professional.
Which might be a good thing.
It's a good thing. So you
Yeah,
got to
in
do it from
fact,
your own home, but then you kind of can take the classes on your own
yeah.
time and watch them over and over and over. And so that was kind of the idea. And so we launched that last year, August of 2022, with 5 classes, and now we're up to 12. and you were one of our first five. So
I know it was exciting because I had just taught a 2-day hands-on pizza workshop at the Artisan Baking Center, and then and I don't know, I can't remember. I think we did our videos first, and then I was there to do the live class. But we recorded this was probably six, I think 6 chapters, so to speak, or six sections of our per. Why don't we give people like a little
yeah,
taste feel of what one of your instructional video courses looks like and tastes
yeah,
like?
we've got a little promo reel here that was kind of from the launch, but it kind of just gives people a little taste of the kind of types of classes we've got. So if we can roll that, that'd be awesome.
All right, here it is. Oh,
Oh,
I see. We're watching, for those who are listening, we're watching the video, but there's no sound. We're not getting any of the sound, but we're seeing some images of some of the various instructors that teach there. I'm seeing Nicky Justo himself is taught, I know, bread class. Mike Zakowski, who's known as the Baker, in the city of Sonoma, famous for his whole grain breads. There's a few others, and well, we got to see some visuals. We weren't able to hear the sound. We still haven't mastered the screen sharing aspect of Zoom,
yeah,
but for those who are listening on the audio version of this, it doesn't matter because you wouldn't
they
have been
didn't
able
see it
to see it
anyways.
anyway.
Yeah,
But what we saw are just a few of the instructors giving little promos for their classes, and I'm looking at the website. In fact, we should, for those people who want to like follow along or
yeah,
check out while
yeah.
we're talking. I think the best place to do is go to artisanbakingcenter.com. It's one word, artisanbakingcenter.com. And then there's little navigations there, and you can see a whole list of all the different classes that are being taught. I'm just going to read a couple off, and maybe you can comment on them. We can talk a little bit about some of the classes and some of the cool things that you've learned, because you're really a media guy. You're not the baker, but you've probably become a much better baker as a result of
I
doing.
would tell you, my family has appreciated me producing these classes for sure because I have brought home some serious new skills. That's for sure.
Well, you've brought in some pretty high-powered talent, and made these courses available. We'll talk a little bit more about, what it costs to take them and things like that. But these are streaming courses, and right off the bat, top line, one of your guys is pizza world champion Tony Gemignani, frequent
Yeah,
guest here on Pizza Quest, and so that's probably, I think, if I look at the prices of the courses, that's the top line course. That's the $99 course. Now I know people spend $125 to go take a shorter version of Tony's class when we go to the pizza expos. So that's a pretty good value right there. But I'll just go through them real quick, and then we'll go back and talk about some of them. So Tony Gemignani's got a class called Pizza with a World Champion, in which you learn how to make pizza and calzone with 13-time world pizza champion Tony Gemignani. And then we've got another pizza class by a guy named Peter Reinhardt, Pizza Quest. So, of course, this is Pizza Quest. My class is called Pizza Quest, and we did this. We filmed this a year and almost, it seems like about 2 years ago, or was it just last year? It's hard
yeah, it was a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half
Wow,
ago.
it feels like a long time ago, but it was just a year ago, and the book had just come out. And so
Yeah,
basically, we gave the viewers of this course a taste of 4 of the best pizzas from the book. It's hard to say best because it's like,
yeah.
they're all best, but we chose 4 that we thought would be fun, and kind of a deep dive into how to make those. There's a sourdough bread 101 course with Hannah De La Cruz. There's Craig Ponsford, the first American world champion bread maker. He went to Paris in sometime around 1994 and beat the French and
After baguettes,
everybody else.
yes.
Yeah,
It's
and
like the story of the Napa winemakers, that finally beat the French in the blind tasting. That's what I was like equate it to, like he's
exactly.
that guy that showed up and they thought, oh, these Americans, they
Yeah,
got
they don't
nothing
know
but
what they're
baguettes,
doing.
and then
Yeah, he kicked butt when he went to France, and suddenly, gave American baking credibility. So Craig has a course. What's his course?
he's got 2 actually, but the one that he's really well known. I mean, so obviously we talked about baguette, right? That's what he's really known for in terms of in the baking world. And so he's got a class that's always sold out in person called Art of the Baguette. And so we are like, we need to do that one online. So we did that one. That's been a really successful class. He does three different styles of baguette, classic and a sourdough, and then one with some more wheat. He's a big proponent of all the different.
He is a champion of whole grain baking. Yes.
Yes, yeah. So he's amazing. And then we did another one with him called a toast. It's kind of a play on words, a toast to pan bread. Because most people out in the general world don't know what pan bread is. It's like, what is that? But it's like, it's for sandwiches, it's for slicing. So, the pan bread one is interesting because I'm like a perfect target audience for this whole thing, because I'm a kind of home baker enthusiast, but I'm not professional by any means. I know a little bit of stuff, but a lot of times I kind of am a sounding board for Nikki or the crew there. And I'll ask questions like, well, what is that? Like you're saying all these baking terms, but like I don't know what that is. And I even know a little bit about baking and flour and whatnot. So anyhow, with pan bread, it was really an interesting way for me to understand like what all goes into that, and doing it on a small scale, and how amazing the types of breads are that you can make versus just what you think about is like I'm going to the store and I'm buying a loaf of sandwich bread or something. It's like
Right.
it can be
Yeah.
really
It's
really
like,
amazing, and some technique used there. It's not all just these rustic hearth breads,
right.
cool.
And of course, more pan bread is eaten in the United States than crusty hearth bread. But the crusty hearth bread is the sexy bread. That's the one that
Yeah,
everybody
sexy bread.
about. And because we take pan breads or loaf breads for granted.
Yes. Yeah.
But now they're kind of coming back. Dave's Killer Bread's a good example. My bakery, that was based in Santa Rosa years ago, it was a pan bread bakery. We made our name because I didn't want to compete against all the sourdough, local bakeries that already existed in the Bay Area. So we came out with sort of a unique. They were kind of an early version of what Dave Killer Bread has turned into, and it looks like Craig's course gets into some classics. It looks like I'm looking at here and seeing. Because if you go to the website, you can navigate through each course. I kind of like the way you set this up, where you get to see like a 30-second, introduction by the teacher himself and herself. But then you can also scroll down and see the whole content of the class. So he's making.
And there's always some free previews too, which is kind of cool because we wanted people to see what it looked like and felt like. So in any of the classes, you can watch a little promo video. You can read some stuff about what you're going to learn. But then down below, and you look at all the content, you can see all of the different lessons and how it's broken down and how much time the whole class consists of. But then there's always a couple free previews, and a lot of those we have up on YouTube as well for people to watch and learn about what this thing is.
Yeah, you got to give people a taste of something before they're going to buy it normally.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of unknown because people are like, well, what is it like to take a baking class at home? And but I think just to step back a second, like our concept here was like obviously taking the in-person classes and trying to figure out how to do an online model, but it's also really that we want to take some of the best bread bakers and pizza makers and culinary instructors, cookbook authors, and that kind of stuff from around the country. These people that were all this friends of Central Milling, if you will. They're kind of in the ecosystem of Central Milling kind of world, and provide this really amazing content for home bakers who are looking to take their baking skills to the next level. Because I think, well, I mentioned YouTube earlier, like there's a lot of free content out there. So I had this battle internally and talked back and forth with some people that I work with who are launching online courses and being like, well, why have people pay, or how do you get people to pay for content? And they're like, don't worry about that, because the thing is, when you go to YouTube, it's a noisy, distracting, crazy ads. There's classes all down the left. If you want, you can get a concept on there, and if you're really good at navigating that really complex digital landscape, you can maybe glean some topics here and there. If you want to download something, then you're going to go off to someone else's website anyways. There's tons of people that do this freemium model. They're offering you some stuff, and they're like, if you want the good stuff, you got to pay to be on my whatever subscription level. So it's kind of and you kind of don't know, like, at least the perspective of professional bakers. They look at a lot of these big Instagrammers or YouTubers, and they kind of look at them with a little bit of a leery perspective. Like, do they really know the science behind what they're teaching? Do they really know, or they've just figured out how to make a sourdough loaf rise really high and have a big open crumb? Or so you kind of don't know the level of knowledge.
That's a big one, because credibility is always in question when getting stuff off the internet. You never know if it's legit or not.
Yeah. And then you don't get any support with it either. So you watch a video and something goes wrong. It's like, what do I do now? Like, I guess I failed. I guess I suck as a baker, and as I've learned through these classes, there's so many little things that can go wrong. And with baking, or trying to coax a little bit different of a final result out of the bake. And so having some support there is really important. And
So
so
what does a user do if they have a question? They're taking a course. We'll just continue to use Craig's pan bread as an example. And of course, we can do it with mine as well. But what if someone has a question and you're not there? They're watching you on the streamed video that you already shot. How do they get their questions to you?
well, I just give most people your number and then just say, call Peter.
I do get emails from people saying I was watching your course and
Yeah, no, when we first launched, we didn't have a team big enough to support like full on commenting and active questions. And so we had an email. So you had an email you could email. And so that was okay. And we get some emails with questions and things like that. But then Nikki recently brought on a baking, I don't know what her actual title is, but she's a legit baker who helps him with some formulation and development and like helps with that whole side of his business, whereas I'm kind of helping on the marketing branding side of what he's in charge of. And so she's amazing. And so she's helping now. We have chat enabled on all the classes. So in any lesson, if you get stuck or if you don't know what's going on, you can pop a question in there. She's checking those every day and she's responding, but also other bakers now from the community can see that question and then they can respond back to it too. So there's a little bit of crowdsourcing of knowledge. There's some comments that are just like, oh, this was such a great lesson. I love that. Or it's like, hey, I got stuck here. Or I feel like, should I be doing this a little bit higher temperature? Or why does that seem like such a small amount of sourdough that you're putting into that thing? That kind of stuff. And then she's getting back and answering those questions. So we have like a real legit baker who can answer questions and help people get unstuck. So that's been a really huge thing. We launched that a few months ago.
That's excellent because you've got to build community. I think people really want to be part, especially bread makers and bakers in general. We view ourselves as part of a tribe of kindred spirits and to be in a community and be able to, communicate with each other, not just, having the content come at you is, I think, a big way of growing this whole concept.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that back to the platform is, I think, what we found is like if people love a brand or they love and they trust the brand, it's not just like they love it, but usually it's because there's a level of trust there. So people are here following you at Pizza Quest because they trust you, they like your personality, they know that you put out amazing content and that kind of stuff. So then if Peter now is like, hey, I've got a class over here, check it out, and you can learn from me. There's some value there in like, I want to take Peter's class, or I want to take Tony's, or I want to take Jen's, or these people that already have these fans and followings that they trust them. And also just the fact that you can go to one place and the content is curated by, Nikki is never going to put me in touch with some baker that he hasn't vetted or he doesn't think, is worth their salt in terms of like teaching content. And so we've got all this stuff in one place. It's kind of curated professional level content. It's distraction free. There's not all this noise and things. And so I think that's really the key there. I mean, we get some comments on YouTube from time to time. There's people out there that just want to, be jerks and what are you guys doing here? You're just blah blah blah. Like you just want people to to pay for this class. Why would I pay for this class? It's like, dude, well, you don't have to pay for it. I'm not saying you got to pay for it. Like, but some other people appreciate that and don't love the whole chaotic social media, madhouse. So
what is the general design and format of a course? I mean, I know it's divided into sections. Like, what's a typical sectional version of a course?
Yeah, well, we always start with kind of a welcome, we call it class prep, because we realized, okay, if people want to take these classes at home, they can't just jump right in and start baking because they might not have like a pan that they need, or they might not have some tool. And also some home bakers, it's really hard. We get a lot of like mid-level experienced people, I think, because from our audience, we have a lot of people that are already pretty well versed in typical home baking, bread baking. They've probably dabbled in some sourdough. They have some tools at home, but they might not have this one thing that the instructor would love for them to have. They don't have a baking stone or steel, let's say, or something, or some particular, like if you're making baguettes, like you need to have a couche, or you need to have something to be able to kind of form the loaf. So we always go through this class prep that allows people to kind of like get some knowledge about what they're going to need, what they're going to be making, what kind of tools they need, if there's any terminology that's being used that they might not be familiar with. And so kind of get them ready. Then we jump in. Usually some people have had like a little section with like maybe a little bit more knowledge about some topic. Like Craig is just like this amazing teacher that like can't help himself but teach all of these different extra skills and concepts. And so he's got this whole section of like bread baking knowledge before you even get into the formulas, where he goes over all kinds of different things, flour choices and folding techniques. And, so some people do like a little kind of even deeper dive, but then we get into the content, and the content really depends. There's usually about 3 formulas. A couple of them only have 2. So we use the formulas and or the sauces, and some of them have some more cooking side of things when you got to make a sauce, or you got to do something over the stove for some reason. But a lot of them are formulas for doughs and things. And so we go through those step by step, and those are broken down into maybe 6 to 8 lessons to kind of get you through that formula. And so then we finish with some kind of final conclusion stuff. We always do some sort of an assessment of the final bake. So we kind of talk about what went well, what might have not gone as well, or if how to kind of troubleshoot some things. And then we always throw some bonus content in there because we wanted to kind of have these classes feel like, okay, yes, I learned some formulas. I got some really great teaching from someone who really knows what they're doing. And while they're going, they're teaching me all these tips and tricks and whatever. But like at the end, like what else can we do to really give people something extra that feels fun? And so there's been kind of everything from like in Tony's class, he's not only world pizza champion from like the making pizzas for eating, but he also throws them all over the place and does this
I
crazy.
love that one. I love the fact that
So,
you can get that, learn how to be a dough tosser guy, like
yeah,
Tony. Acrobatic, they call it dough acrobatics. And Tony
so
is the
he's a good
greatest of
guy.
all. Yeah, he's
And
the GOAT.
in his class, that was super fun because he's, doing this crazy dough flipping and all stuff, and we're all just like, what? And then like he like throws one at one of the camera guys, as like this finish thing, and kind of broke the fourth wall, so to speak, where it's
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was really funny. It's funny. We're all cracking up. And then I was like, what we got to do? You make this look so easy. We got to get one of these guys back here. Like it's either me or it's this camera guy or it's this audio guy. We got to have you come in here and show them how to do it so we can show them how hard it really is. And so he gets him a piece of dough, and he tries to do it. And it's like the main guy that like owns the video production company that I work with. And he's trying to do the dough and trying to stretch it. And he's like, and Tony eventually is like, all right. I want to see how like we do it with the little kids. And he shows them how like the little kids do it because he can't, get it down. And it's just, so there's some fun bonus content like that. There's also bonus content where it's like, okay, now these 3 formulas, let's take one of them and I'll show you how to tweak it to make this other 4th formula, or here's some different ways you can take this formulas you made and do them like with all these different seasonal variations. Stuff like that. So that's kind of the overall format of the class. And I think the way most people, when we first started, we thought, okay, people are going to take this from top to bottom. And then we very quickly realized, wait, that's not how people will do this. They might want to jump in and go right down to the 3rd formula because they're really interested in like the whole wheat baguette or something. And they don't want to wait, or they want to do the chocolate candied orange peel ciabatta. Like they don't want to do the regular one first. And so we kind of had to change how we produce the classes a little bit to make sure that it wasn't like you had to watch this one first before you did this one. It's now kind of like once you do the intro stuff, you should be able to kind of choose your own adventure. And then you make this one time, one weekend, then maybe a couple weeks go by, and then you go, oh man, I want to make that other formula. And so then you do another one. And so I think people aren't like, some people probably watch the thing all the way through just to kind of like get it all in their minds. But then I think people are going and doing more of like, I want to take this formula, I want to tackle it this weekend. Then I'm going to tackle this other formula another weekend, and kind of taking some time with it. And so it's fun because you can do that. You can go back 6 months later. You can go, it's unlimited access once you have a class.
That brings up a question for me is that, okay, so once someone buys the course, they basically now can own streaming rights to that course forever. They can come back to it whenever they want. There's no time limit on it or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say they own streaming rights to it because they can't go republish it somewhere. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean the right to
get
stream it
access
for
to it.
themselves. Yeah.
Yes, for themselves and people. Yeah. So once you've purchased a class, that's yours forever. Essentially, you can go and download the formulas and download the whatever other downloads we've provided in the class. You can watch those videos over and over. Just when you want to go back and make something a year from now, it's always in your account, and there's no
So you can actually print out recipes and formulas from any courses. That's cool. So there's got to be, like in your case, a learning curve in creating this. Obviously it's a relatively new idea. When we did it a year ago, there were 4 or 5 courses. Now you've got a whole bunch of them, and you're adding more all the time. What are some of the things that you've learned? And what are some of the painful lessons that you've learned along the way? Things that can go wrong and that that you shouldn't.
Yeah, we definitely learned a lot of. I mean, some of the main things that we learned were like we come with like these formulas, and then they say one thing, and then on camera in the class, just things kind of tweak or they go differently, and then we publish the class, and then people would be pointing out like, wait, over here it says 375 degrees and in the class for 15 minutes, and over here you said 375 degrees for 18 minutes, so which one is it? Because sometimes it's funny, like baking is this weird thing where it's like it's sometimes very flexible, and you just got to kind of pay attention to the temperature and the time and those different factors, and other times it's very like fixed, like you got to do it this way. And so some people get hung up on those discrepancies, and for good reason. So we've realized that we really need to make sure that whatever was shot in the class gets then kind of reverse reflected back in the formulas, in the process notes, if there's anything that changed. So we had some of those discrepancies. What I was talking about before, thinking that people were going to go, because when we're kind of planning the class and going through the content, we're kind of going through it like as if it's top to bottom. And then the day of, sometimes we shoot it that way, and sometimes we shoot it all over the place, because when you've got 3 doughs that are all marching through a baking schedule at once, you're kind of like mixed dough 1, mixed dough 2, mixed dough 3, and then you're going to like, fold dough 1, fold dough 2, fold dough, so you're just all over the place. But realizing that people aren't necessarily going to take it from top to bottom, and not wanting to, like, making sure while we're going throughout the day, like, okay, let's pretend someone has never taken any of the other one, or made any of the other formulas, and let's make sure that this still just as one section holds up and makes sense from top to bottom, so that it's not relying on someone having watched the previous thing. So that's something that I think we've learned.
Yeah,
About. Yeah.
have to do a lot of editing, post-production of filming all this stuff, because you're the producer director, you're there when it's all happening, being and then, as you said, sometimes you have to kind of rearrange the order of things. How much time do you spend in post-production putting all these together?
Usually, I mean, the editors are pretty quick, and we've got this down. That's another thing, making sure that the day of that we're shooting, that we're slating everything, that we have a really clear call out for the numbering of all of our sections. And so the editing usually is not terrible, because we're also not doing anything super fancy and like lots of crazy effects to the editing. It's really just film, the audio and the video done really well, lots of different angles, and then cutting between those. And so, the editors normally take about 1 to 2 weeks maybe to chop it up and give me rough cuts. And then I watch through everything, because I'm probably the one person who knows what the original intention was the most and what we got to. And so sometimes I find little misses or little things that are off there, and do a lot of double checking. It takes me about a day or two, and then they'll do some revisions on those cuts, and then I'll pass it over to the baker, because I want them to make sure they have an opportunity. At least not everybody watches their own content, because they're all just busy doing their own things, but most people will take time and watch their own content, and sometimes they have a couple little things, but by the time I pass it off, it's usually like pretty dialed. So one time we had the worst thing that ever happened on Mike Zakowski's class is we always have backup audio. There's like this audio rolling and the boom mic audio and the thing, but we lost audio somehow for a chunk of the class. Wow. And so we had where did we lose video? We lost something, and so we had to. The hard part is if we don't get something the day of, then people go back to their world, and I go back home, and the video team goes away, and the baker's flying back to wherever, unless they're local, and it's kind of like, oh shoot, like what do we do? So thankfully, I haven't had any of those major issues except this one with Mike, but he's local to Petaluma, and we caught it that night, and so we were able to have him come back like the next day and refilm a few of the intros. And so we had to use a lot of the top down shots during his class. We must have lost the video because we had the audio. That's what it was. Somehow the card got corrupted or whatever. It's just one of those things. Like, it's a bummer, but we ended up making his class work pretty well. It's just,
I would be, I think losing video has got to be harder than losing the audio, because with audio, you can always, do some voiceover, but
captions or something. Yeah. Voiceovers. Yeah.
But you don't have to bring in a voice actor like James Earl Jones to come in and Mike Kowalski, and I'm going to show you how to do, these multigrain breads today.
Yeah.
But but that's got to be every producer's nightmare, is that, the technical side of it. That scares me when I'm producing like my bread symposium, and I have no problem with the idea of the content that we're going to present. I'm just really worried that we're going to lose connectivity through Zoom or through, or if it's a call in from somebody internationally, that somehow we're going to, just like what happened today, where we try to show a video and it doesn't work. It's the technical side that makes me crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's stressful for sure. I mean, anybody who's done anything on screen or live, or I mean, this is not live exactly, but there's so many little things that can happen. So you really got to trust your team, and you got to have backups. And so that's something else we learned after that. That was thankfully our third class we shot with Mike. And so after that, we had better ways to back up, have redundancies, and do more checks. And I actually have a newer team now after maybe the fourth or fifth class that was shot. Yeah, I guess after we launched, I got a new team that just kind of took that whole side of things up a notch. They're actually based out of Santa Rosa, and so they're local up there. And so yeah, they definitely brought like a whole nother level of like a bigger team, more people watching all the things. All the equipment was even another level past, which you can't tell that the quality is any less on the first view, but just knowing that like they're really handling the technical side of things, so I can just focus on the content being produced correctly that day is really amazing. So yeah, shout out to Definition Films.
Your team getting better. You've got experience now under your belt. You've already got a catalog of about 20 courses or more. What are some of the new ones coming up?
Yeah, so we just launched one called Discovering Focaccia with Michael Calanti.
Yeah,
he's awesome. And
Culinary Academy. 30 years ago, we were colleagues together and have known.
Oh, you guys work together. Oh, that's cool.
Each other for all these time, and I brought him to the bread symposium. He's presented. He's been on Pizza Quest. He's a great guy. He developed recently a wonderful bread for Delfina, the restaurant Delfina Pizzeria in San Francisco. A kind of and I don't know if it's in the course or not, but it's kind of a hybrid of a focaccia, pizza, ciabatta dough in one. Wow. So that must be a fun course.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, his one of the difficulties, or not difficulties, but just one of the things to overcome is, a lot of the bakers can be amazing bakers. That's what they do. But just like someone who's a graphic designer and then trying to be the CEO of a company, it's like those skills don't always translate. Some of the bakers have either no experience really teaching in front of a class, and so the in-person thing is one thing. And so most of the people on here have done some of that or have been into Artisan Baking Center online, but doing it then translating how they know how to bake into on-camera talent with, enough enthusiasm, or dealing with a teleprompter. It's a lot to handle and to manage. And then also having a personality that can present that content. And then also the other part is kind of, I don't want to say dumbing things down, but like, kind of doing it for a home baker audience is definitely different than obviously a professional audience. But even sometimes the in-person classes tend to be like, they don't have to make things as simple, because they can answer the questions when they come at them, like immediately right there. Like, wait, I didn't quite get that. What did you do with that fold or something? So, so I think people that have done actual online content, online classes, like yourself, like Michael, like Tony. I mean, some of those people are like just great naturally on camera, and other people it's been like some more coaching and it's almost like extracting the gold out of their being. It's like, I know it's in there, man. you just gotta bring it. And can you say that a little differently so that people will really understand what you're saying there? And so that's been a challenge. But Michael Calanti, I was going to say, like, he was just fantastic, because not only does he have great knowledge, but he's got this just this personality that just oozes through the screen. I mean, you got this personality too. That's kind of like you can't help but talking more about things and like using your hands and gesticulating, and you just like your personality comes to the screen.
Hand talker for sure.
I know, me too. I'm like, woo.
He's videos for so long, and he's comfortable in front of the camera, so that makes your job a little easier. But the challenge for you is like, having this raw talent that are not experienced on screen, and then you've got to coach them through and coax them through, and fun for you.
Yeah, and Michael wanted to do this kind of journey through Italy. So he had this whole kind of, because he's involved in the Presidia slow food movement, and he went to Italy and learned about focaccia by traveling through different cities. So he had this kind of like almost like spiritual passion for this class, which was really cool. It wasn't just like make these formulas, make them good. It was like, I want to bring the, so anyways, that was a really fun class. And we have the next class is that we also shot that same time, but that's launching in October, is going to be with Nicole Plew. And so she's a master pastry, James Beard award-winning pastry chef, and taught for a long time in San Francisco. I always get the different baking schools confused there, but I've got it in my notes somewhere. Do you know where she taught?
I
Culinary Academy?
think I don't think she was there. I will find out while we're
Yeah.
talking. I'm going to look that up.
Anyhow, she's a super legit baking instructor, and we were trying to find someone that would teach people how to do pastry lamination at home. But no pastry chef wants to do that because it requires pounding out the butter block and rolling out the dough by hand, and not being able to use a laminating machine. And you've got all these variables. The temperature is getting too warm, and this and that. And so she said she was willing to do it. And so we have this class coming up it's called Croissants and Beyond. And basically we show people how to do like a classic butter croissant, and then we, in the bonus content, translate that into a pain au chocolat. We also do these couillons, which she's like famous for, that are just unbelievable. I mean, I thought, okay, that sounds fine, like it's a laminated sugary pastry, whatever, but like, oh my goodness, eating those was like a revelation. Because that's the best thing about these classes. I get to eat all this food that you guys make, and it's like fresh too. There's nothing like something that's been baked just an hour before or two before. The next day tastes great. That's what you normally get in like, bakeries and whatever. But man, that like same day taste of fresh baked stuff is amazing. So anyways, and then she also does a laminated brioche Danish, which also to me was like surprisingly amazing. It wasn't just like a normal, I don't know what a normal Danish, when me growing up, a Danish was like this round thing that had some like custard and fruit jam filling in it or something, and it was like a little dry, but hers was like just unbelievable. So
Of course, one of the top pastry chefs. She won the James Beard Award back in like 2010 as pastry chef of the year. She worked at maybe one of the top 3 restaurants in the United States, 11 Madison Park. She was in Healdsburg at Cyrus. I mean, she's been all over, and I think right now she has a program at the San Francisco Cooking School, and she's the director of all the pastry programs and classes there. So she's paid her dues, but she's super talented and has won a lot of recognition for her talent. So it's amazing that you were able to get her. But of course, being in filming in the Bay Area, you have access to some of the top baking talent and as well as culinary talent, anywhere in the country. So it's a good place to.
Yeah. Well, so, and talking about all these classes and stuff, but like how was your experience, like from your perspective as the baker, filming, like with pre-production and the day of, like were you like, oh, I've got this? Or was it like, whoa, Kyle's really putting me through the ringer here to get this content out, or what? Like what? How did that go for you?
I remember it's always nerve-wracking, I think, at least for me, because I've done a lot of these, but I never go into it assuming it's going to go smoothly, because I did classes for Craftsy, which is one of the pioneers of these online streaming courses, and quite a number of YouTube type stuff, but you never assume it's going to go well. So you kind of, mentally you're prepared for the worst. But I think what my recollection of doing it with your team was that we had fun and we didn't have to do a whole lot of retakes. I mean, most of the things came out really good the first time. We had to get the oven dialed in. You have a mental checklist of all the things that
we replaced that oven. Do you know that?
What's that?
We replaced that oven. Yeah.
I think one of the ovens was accurate and the other oven wasn't accurate.
Yeah, we had this temperature, this falling temperature issue, and yeah, it was supposed to be this really nice Viking range. Everybody's, ooh, that Viking oven, but then it's like it was either installed wrong or it was glitchy or something. So they replaced that, and now we've got 2 ovens in there that because I always force the bakers, I'm like, you guys can't go over here into the professional bakery and use the professional tools. We got to do this
the home ovens.
As the home baker would do it. You're not going to get the same exact perfect results, maybe. But yeah, so we did have that oven issue with you and all the first bakers. It was like everybody like, oh my god, what's going on? This is taking too long to bake, and why is it not? Oh, the temperature's down at like 350 now, and
while you put your pizza in the oven and then you go back and you start to film some more stuff and you're talking, and then you can't get out of the back of your mind the fact that there's a pizza in the oven and I'm not sure if it's burning or if it's getting baked in the proper way or what it's going to look like when it comes out. So there's a lot that's going on in our minds and behind the scenes, but you guys took a lot of that stress and pressure off of me, and I was amazed that I think we I'm not sure how long the whole course runs. We probably got over an hour and a half worth of concentrated content on there. But we did it all in what we did a full day of prep, and then we filmed it all. I think all in one day, right?
Yeah, we do a shoot in one full day, and some of them we like to shoot like 8 to 5 is the ideal, but a lot of them bleed into the 5 hour, 5:30, maybe 6. A few of them we've had just too much content to get through or whatever, and we've just shot ourselves in the foot and we're there until 8 o'clock at night or 9 or something. I think we did Jeffrey De Leon's breakfast pastry class was maybe one of the longest ones, but I think we also maybe broke for dinner or something at one point. We're like, all right, we got to go eat. But sometimes there's just too many formulas, and we realize that the amount of formulas we have is one thing, but also how complex those are, how long they take to get those steps, how many extra little sauces and sides and toppings and things. So his had a lot of we made pastry cream, and we made almond cream, and we made cake crumb topping, and we made all these things that ended up taking in and of themselves a lot of time. And so sometimes but we shoot in a day. That's the long story short, is we shoot all in a day. The prep though is what I was going to say. The prep has been a learning curve for sure. We have gotten much better around the time of your class. I mean, I think we'd already had a few under our belts when we did your class, but even after that, we've really dialed in the preparation, because if we can prep properly, both on the content side of things, so the day of, we're just bang, 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 shooting all the content, and also on the bakers end, when they come in the day before, and they might prep some doughs and some different things so they have those ready at those different stages. Because sometimes you're like, okay, we got to set this thing here for 12 to 16 hours. Well, obviously we can't wait 12 to 16 hours to do the next step, or 3 hours until the croissants are finished proofing or something. It's we got to already have those next step. That's where a little bit of the baking show, TV show kind of thing comes in, which I don't have any previous experience with. So I think Jeffrey's one of the only guys that had maybe Tony also, but with being on a network baking show,
things like that.
Yeah. So it's we don't do fake stuff or swap things out, but it's we definitely have some things where it's it's already prepped to that stage, so that we don't have to wait that long to do the next step, and so that's been another learning curve for sure. But I think some of my favorite moments, like I mentioned before, is Tony's pizza tossing thing. That was just a super fun thing to watch. But there's been so many moments that are hard to explain exactly, because it's just me learning something. And so, learning so many new skills through all the classes has been amazing, because again, just you take one class and you might learn that one specific topic, but when you learn from Craig and you learn from Peter and then you learn from, different people, Michael, and you kind of end up getting this kind of more general knowledge. Oh, I'm kind of getting how time or temperature or signs of fermentation work in a more general sense. And so it's made me a lot more confident as a home baker, obviously being really in the weeds with producing these classes, but even watching them afterwards and trying some of those things at home. So learning the skills is awesome. But then, like I said, also eating all the things. I mean, my first job ever, actually, it's funny this has come full circle, but my first job ever, I grew up in Davis, which is where UC Davis is. That's probably one of the only reasons people know it if they don't live in the area. Big viticulture school and stuff there.
College town, and great wine and beer courses and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. So I grew up there, and I worked for this bakery called Davis Bread and Desserts, and they did lots of farmers markets all around Northern California. And I remember having things that had just come out of the oven, like a bear claw with these toasted almonds that were still warm and crackling, or a little round of sourdough, and back to that thing of I mentioned before, of eating something that's freshly baked. It can't be too fresh where it's still gummy in the inside or something, but there's this sweet spot where it's there's just nothing else like it. You can't get that flavor
fresh out of the oven like that at its
peak. And pizzas, by its very nature, you get that, because they cook it.
What's that?
I was saying pizzas though is the one exception, because pizzas you always eat, well, you should be, especially if you go to a nice Neapolitan pizza place or something and they're serving it right out of the oven, you get that flavor. But all these other things, at best it was baked that morning at 4 a.m. or something, and you walk into the bakery and you get it 6, 8, 10, 12 hours later. But there's just this flavor that kind of goes away after it cools fully. And I think it's something magical about that. So getting to be able to try some of these things from some of the best bakers around the country as an hour later or something when we're cleaning up, and
that's one of the benefits one of the perks that you got by being there. That course, because you filmed every course and you produced. And so eventually at some point, you may go down the rabbit hole so far that you're going to go, I ought to open my own little cottage bake. So stay with production, because I'll tell you, keep baking for fun.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good hobby. I think it's probably a stressful.
That's going to be
business.
a lot of the people who are buying these courses are people that love to bake at home and are what we call enthusiasts or hobbyists with it.
Yeah.
Run out of time. I do want to ask you, let's tell people again how they can get it. And I think you have a special offer also for folks who are listening.
I do, and I meant to mention this earlier. Maybe we can cut something in the beginning that's like, hey, at the end of this class, at the end of this podcast, we're gonna have a little offer for you guys if you want to listen until the end. So we'll put that at the beginning now.
We'll try to get. But I did put in the chat for those who were watching the log on for artisanbakingcenter.com. But
yes.
But if they go there, so let's say if folks who are listening, go to artisanbakingcenter.com. And I know there's already, for people who are buying their first course, you have a discount, but I think you're offering an even bigger discount for people who are listening to the show.
Yeah. So our general, like, try this out. You can go to almost any online platform these days and they'll have something like put your email in and get 10% or 20% or whatever. So we've got a 25% off your first class offer that always just pops up if you've never been to the platform before. But yeah, for you guys, people in your audience, we want to do like something better. So we're gonna do 35% off. Yeah, so that's a pretty good, it's a little more than a third off. And so 35% off with coupon code PizzaQuest. So that should be easy for people to remember. Just PizzaQuest, all one word. It doesn't matter if it's all caps or lowercase. Just drop that in at the checkout.
You don't have, it's not case sensitive.
No, it's a very insensitive coupon code. Yeah, those 35% off the classes of your choice. So you can actually, it's for any class. And so it's not just your first class. Like, you could technically, we've got these things called bundles on there too, where it's like, okay, we're trying to start bundling content together. If you want to get these 3 classes, the authentic Italian dinner or the artisan breads, we're giving people, about a 30 to 40% discount for buying a bundle, but you can kind of make your own bundle. So pick and choose. You can do the 35% off your pizza class, and then go do focaccia and go do something else. But that's gonna be good through the end of this year, because I know you're publishing this podcast in a couple of different spots and it might take a month to come out or whatever. So we want to make sure to get people to the end of this year. If they want to check this out, then head to artisanbakingcenter.com, check out, and or in checkout, throw the code PizzaQuest in there, and you'll get 35% off the classes of your choice. So
everything you said is go to the site, and if you just want to get a little taste and samples of it, you can go to each of the classes and get a little intro from the instructor, read about it, get a little snippet, so kind of have fun with it. And I think once you decide to take a course or more, you'll be hooked. You'll be a regular.
But definitely take Peter's class.
Please.
He gets a little something for that too. He gets his royalties. So take Peter's class, because it's one of the best on the platform. And also then, when you put PizzaQuest code in on his class, you'll feel like that just all aligned. Like the universe is aligning, and you're going to have make some amazing pizzas. And by the way, that's one of my highlights, I got to say, is your chicken bacon ranch Detroit style pizza with the makes anything taste better sauce, which is not really a sauce, kind of like a topping. That was one of the highlights, man.
It's the classic Philly hoagie spread that we show you how to make. And
it's so good. And then with the cheese embedded in the crust and the frico on the sides, and
that's where I came up with that phrase, the makes anything taste better sauce. So we used it right there for the first time. But yeah, love it. Well, Kyle,
that was a good one. So
for including me in your cast of of instructors, and thank you for doing this series. Thanks for the discount that you're offering our listeners and viewers, and best of success. I look forward to coming back out to the Artisan Baking Center and doing more classes there in the future, and hopefully get to work together again.
Absolutely. All right.
So artisancenter.com. Kyle Ahlgren, producer, director, founder of the online version, and working with Nikki Justo, one of our favorites, to create a brand new series, educational, online, great streaming content. Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for having me. All right.
Thank you for joining us today on Pizza Quest. We'll see you on the next episode.